How often in everyday life do you hear the phrase, "It is what it is"? It is an acceptance of challenges and acceptance of your plight in life. In the years leading up to 1965 in Alabama, that same acceptance by so many prevailed. It was simply a matter of color. The acceptance sent children to separate schools, through backdoor entrances of stores and restaurants, and to drink only from water fountains marked colored. They sat at the back of the bus. They were denied the right to higher education or even casting a vote. It's just the way it was, they recall. The mid-20th century saw cataclysmic social change, no longer accepting the status quo. In those moments, just the way it was, no longer had to be. And Pell City, Alabama was not immune. Integration of public schools came, so did voting rights. Opportunities arose. Barriers came down. Scores of firsts followed. They're still coming today. When opportunities opened, Pell City and St. Clair County experienced a lion's share of its own firsts. Dreams became reality.
We're on the move now. Yes, sir. Like an idea whose time has come.
As Dr. Martin Luther King once put it, courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite the obstacles. Jermicha Fomby became special agent in charge of the FBI in Jackson, Mississippi, a city steeped in a long history of racism.
Because I've been in very serious and dangerous situations through my job as an FBI agent, my time deployed to Afghanistan, and then unfortunately, even as our world is changing through social and political perspectives, where because of my position that people have done nefarious things, it has been my faith that has always guided me and gotten me protected. And it goes back to the same things of the upbringing of the things that I saw people do, or more so as I got older. My grandmother being a black lady in Alabama during segregation who had a master's degree and taught and was an administrator, was a principal until schools were integrated. That was very unique for me to know and understand exactly what those things were. Courageous in their own rights, I would say pioneering in their own rights as well. But there's a thing, as we talk about being from Pell City and being from the community in which I grew up, there's a lot of things that were woven into my moral fibers that I had no idea were going to create the person that I became to be, with those humble elements of being from Pell City and from the Quantwell community.
James McGowan became the first black city councilman, an office he held for 32 years.
When I ran for public office, and which I was probably faced with people that I went out and talked to that probably looked at me and said, "Are you running for this position to take care of your people?" And I would always say, "No, I'm running for this position to work for all the people, not just my race. I mean, if I get elected, I'm going to serve all the people, not just my own race." I had several white friends, and we played together, we eat together, everything that what we did. I mean, it wasn't a color barrier that kept us from doing anything that we did. If you think that just because your skin is a different color, that can be a barrier right there.
Right.
Don't look at that. I mean, do what you know you can do,
right,
and people will respect that.
Jerome Green became a college president, Jermicha Fomby's father.
My parents were civil rights advocates, so I grew up in a civil rights house. I think that my father was probably the first black voter in St. Clair County. And so my memories of Saturday nights were riding with them in the back seat down dusty roads, going to voter registration meetings, and then when you see headlights in the back following you, if you saw another car, it was a source of fear because it could be the Klan.
Ivy McDaniel became the first black woman elected to the city council.
You're not a child of the 60s or the 70s, but so when you grew up, we had already been through desegregation. But tell me, what was your experience growing up after segregation? And did you have any memories of color being a barrier for you?
And people ask me that question all the time, and to be honest, no. Do I know that that it was possible? Yes. But do I have any memories, like fun memories or some definite memories of that being an issue? It never was an issue. So growing up, I always was immersed into black and white. So there was never any idea that that was a problem, because my mom always made sure that I played basketball. There was so there was so many things that I did that I had to be immersed in both sides, black and white. And all my friends were black and white, so I didn't experience that. So I've always been a community-minded person. That's what I do for a living. I help people in the community, and that's what I've always wanted to do. I wanted to see my community always be better, be a good community, be a sound and stable community. I did that when I was in high school. I done that while I was in college. And my dad played a significant role of me being on the city council, because he always told me that I should. My dad always told me, I guess when I was in my 20s, my dad always put that in my head that that's what I should do. And I knew at some point that I would. I didn't think it would be this soon. Also working on the council with the guys that I work with, they are absolutely amazing. I've never had an issue with them. They've made this transition be so easy. And so the joy of it is helping people.
Born in 1930, graduating St. Clair County Training School in 1947, Johnnie Mae Green became manager of the Senior Citizen Center.
As I grew up, we didn't know anything about segregation. The folks treated us just like we were like their color. We played with them, we ate at their houses, we borrowed from them. I was kind of new in here, so I just went up there and asked for soda. I was on the stool. When she handed me the soda, she said, "Now, you're going to have to get off the stool." And I questioned it among the other kids that was raised here. And they say, "That's the way it is." I love Tuscaloosa. I just love Tuscaloosa so well. But it was an incident came up. I was over in here, Pell City then. A young lady named Arthurine Lucy wanted to go to the University of Alabama. And I'm telling you now, that's when I found out that it was a division in the races. And I was grown then. What I thought about it, I thought she ought to went on back home and not got beat up, you know. And I'm telling you the truth. I said, she can go to school anywhere. But that was what it took to build it in. Then our Governor Wallace, that showed me some things that I didn't know existed in Alabama. So I just had a good learning period, and I took everything at heart that I learned. I didn't take it for granted because I could see it happening and I knew it was for real.
Ernest White became the first black Board of Education member. His son Keith recounts his father's journey.
He was the first black Board of Education member on the very first Pell City School Board.
Mm-hmm. Sanitary market.
Okay, we have a picture of him
Yeah.
in front of the store.
Yeah, it was Sanitary Market. Yeah, bring back a lot of memories, that place, because when I grew up in Glen City, it was an extremely, everybody knew everybody. Kind of the person who I am today in terms of reaching out to the community, still trying to do those things, because that was instilled in me as a young kid from my dad. You know, he was always willing to help people. I think he always looked at people from a basic need that they needed in the community, and he was always willing to try to serve people in the community that way. And it's interesting when you say that about the Sanitary Market thing. I think when he eventually closed that store, when he actually got hired, I think at the post office, that he couldn't actually balance some of those things with trying to do both things.
Running White became the first black band and choral director at Pell City High School, where a building on campus now bears his name. His brother Keith remembers.
I think he really flourished as a teacher when he took over, when he became the show choir and concert choir director, because that was something that had pretty much never been done. He started. He was a visionary in seeing that how with music you could bring all of the races together. That's something we all understand. When I graduated from JSU, I was fortunate enough to come back and start working in the school system, and that's when he brought me back on board again, and I started doing the drum line for him.
It was more than the music. It was he taught those kids life, about life.
The two most influential people in my life, I would have to say Ernest White, my dad, and of course my brother Ronnie. You know, they're like, yeah.
Thelma O'Neill Jones became the first black principal of an elementary school.
During my school days, it was totally segregated. I grew up in a segregated environment. I finished from a segregated high school. And my first experience with the integration was in 1967 after graduating from college.
How important was it to you to be able to work and teach in this community?
I think it was important because it was my hometown, and I wanted to do something that I could bring back my experience from college and make an impact on the people in my community. Breaking the barriers, and I didn't see that as being a disadvantage because I didn't see color. In my classroom, everyone was treated the same, and I made it warm and welcoming to all of my students and the parents.
Terry Young and Don Allen were members of the first class to integrate Pell City High School's athletics.
Pell City High, the athletic department got a big boost from us coming over there. You know, it made them a better team. You know, it made Pell City High a better team. And you're out there playing your hearts out to win a football game. Your parents up there watching, they're having to watch a halftime show where they see that flag is prominently displayed and the song Dixie played. I don't know if it was a callous act or it was just an act of not understanding or not feeling the hurt or pain that a black person would feel, because to us that was really a sign of oppression to us. We didn't have to deal with that kind of stuff at St. Clair County Training School.
I don't want to use the phrase scary, but it's mostly what it was like. I mean, you went there thinking you were going for an education and you would put out all that you could do to get with that part of you straight, the education. But then when you was confronted with all of this other quote unquote unnecessary stuff, like Brother Allen was saying, when we come up, we were taught about love. You love a person based on the person, and then your spiritual background help you to deal with that. But then when you get in the midst of it and then encounter it, it's a change in mind, a change the way you accept things, the way you should do things. But it was not bad enough that it caused you to forget your upbringing and especially your spiritual background. Love your neighbor as yourself and do unto others as you would have them to do unto you.
Dan Nobles recalls integrating Pell City High School.
The environment of St. Clair County Training School was that you was one big family. And that was very important, to be able to know that you belong to someone and you belong to some place. And I'll always hold that dear in my heart, to know that I've always belonged.
Tom Ham, a football player, Temple Posey, a basketball player, Both were amongst the first to integrate Pell City High School's athletics.
Football it matures the mind, and when you're out there playing that sports, that's what you're thinking about. Then all the black guys, the white guys, everybody come together out there on the field.
It was kind of hard at times when we entered Pell City High, but as time went on, they got used to us, we got used to them, it kind of worked out okay. But county training school, that was school for us, and we were just heartbroken, when they said we were going to have to change schools and stuff, so.
Yeah, we always, at the time when we was coming up, we couldn't go into stores or certain restaurants and stuff, so, we just had to deal with that.
A lot of places we couldn't go and stuff, and just a lot of things just went on and stuff. And in my professional career, I had a little ups and downs, but it wasn't anything that you would get upset about it. It was just life.
Bob McGowan was one of the first black to become a supervisor at Avondale Mills.
And you are the first black supervisor, to my knowledge, and to record that I know of, at Avondale Mills right here in Pell City.
Yeah, that is correct. I went into management in Pell City in 1979. And I stayed in management until I retired.
It actually fed and made Pell City. There's a lot of families that wouldn't have survived or had anything if it weren't for that cotton mill. We're going to talk about these world wonders, because we know the world wonders, we know who they are, and we know where they come from and who delivered them.
Well, growing up, my mom and dad believed in going to church. And that's where I got my start, because singing in church, and I just love singing for one thing. It don't matter what kind, but gospel was my favorite. Everywhere we went, we was welcome. Whether it was white or black, it didn't matter. But I think our worst problems when we got to traveling was over, because whenever we went through a city to stop to get gas, eat or whatever, we never had any problem, and I can't sit here and say we did.
Okay. Barry Collins was the first black doctor practicing in Pell City.
To be honest with you, in the community, there were certain people that did not believe that people of color were destined for professional careers. At the time, Avondale Mills was a prominent industry in the area, and the best that people of color could achieve would be to work for the mill or go to work in the military. But to achieve a professional career as a doctor, a lawyer, or even possibly a successful businessman was not something that was widely accepted or known, and the knowledge of how to get there was not available to a lot of people in the community. Lucky for me, I had teachers and educators and counselors that encouraged me and gave me knowledge as far as what I needed to do and the steps I needed to take in order to become a physician.
Who were your most influential people when you arrived in medical school? Was there anyone that had a particular influence over your life or that kind of pushed you forward into the medical field?
Absolutely. Growing up, my grandmother used to work for a physician, and his family guided me through the process when I told them that I wanted to be wanted to go into medical school. I was able to receive letters of recommendation and shadowing experiences through that family and their friends. And when I got to medical school, there was an ER physician there that made sure that I worked my way through school. Mr. Marlon Priest was very influential, and of course the physicians from here at home, Dr. Haynes and Dr. Tuck, were very supportive in making sure that I received an adequate medical education and had the opportunity to come back.
Barbara Collins was a member of the first integrated graduating class at Pell City High School.
I loved St. Clair County Training School The principal we had was Mr. Walter M. Kennedy, and he instilled in us that we needed discipline, but we didn't know we needed it at the time. He taught us a lot. He taught us how to act when we go out in public. He also taught us that to take pride in everything that we did.
You were the first Black woman to be supervisor for the Department of Human Resources.
You have to work harder to be in any position, whether you're first, second, third, or fourth. I had applied for a supervisor's position several times and was looked over several times for one of my white colleagues. When I did get that position, that made me feel that there's hope, that we can get to where we want to be.
A common theme runs through all these stories of breaking barriers. It's that unshakable faith that became their guiding light on life's journey through segregation and beyond.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.